America's best days are yet to come. That's because conservatives like you know and live the values our great country was built on. The Heritage Foundation exists to make sure your voice is heard in the D.C. swamp each day, shining the light on a bright future. The Heritage Foundation stands for your values and won't give up the fight because they know you never will. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Lots to unravel, America. Welcome here Monday evening. It's always a pleasure to be back on radio. I love radio. The government shutdown. 41 days. The Democrats didn't get a thing out of this. They were blackmailing the Republicans. They were blackmailing the president. They said, we want $1.5 trillion in more spending. We want health care for illegal aliens. We want health care for able-bodied Americans who refuse to even volunteer 20 hours a week. We have all kinds of money we want to pour into non-governmental organizations on the hard left. All kinds of money for left-wing causes. In other words, we want $1.5 trillion put back into the budget. That's what we want. And by the way, the Unaffordable Care Act, that would be Obamacare, we want hundreds of billions of dollars in additional subsidies for that, even though the plan could never work 12 years ago. We told you that. All Democrats voted for it. All Democrats supported it. All Republicans voted against it. It is a disaster. They expanded it 4 years ago to make sure it would collapse even faster. Then they extended it to cover people who were more than 4 times the poverty level, so it's imploded. And their answer is more money. And by the way, we want it now, not just a vote. We want an outcome that we demand. And for this, they did what they did. Now, a couple of things about this, and I posted on this the other day. Canada, the United Kingdom, and Germany all have privatized, all of them. They've all privatized their air traffic control systems. Before there was a TSA, we also had private security at our airports. They didn't have the authority, and there certainly weren't as numerous as we have in TSA to ensure our protection after 9/11. But I think we're going to take a very, very good look at privatizing our air traffic control system, as well as our TSA. And I'll tell you why. There's 2 major reasons for this. Number one, 41 days. Too many who work as air traffic controllers decided that they were tired, the job was too much, that they weren't getting paid anyway, they got to take care of matters at home, and they called out sick. That is utterly unacceptable to me. They're in the process of shutting down our air traffic control system. That's what they were doing. Of course you can have sympathy for their situation. But the cops don't do that. The military doesn't do that. Doctors don't do that. Nurses don't do that when there are issues in specific hospitals or areas of the country or what have you. It's unacceptable, period. And I don't care if I'm going against the grain. I have nothing personal against any of these people. I don't know any of these people. But that's unacceptable. It's a heavily unionized association. In 41 days, these guys are tougher than that. These gals are tougher than that. They were tired, worn out. You got to be kidding me. Seriously? They're tired and worn out because people were staying out, sick leave and vacation leave all at once, so that it'd pick up where some of their colleagues left off, I suppose. But to me, no great nation can put up with that. 41 days, and you collapse, and that's that. No. There are men and women in this country who have back-breaking jobs, literally back-breaking jobs, whether they're working in mines, in construction, God knows what. But to me, this is utterly unacceptable, period. Something needs to be done about it. That's number one. Number two, Bernie Sanders is very upset tonight, and I want you to keep something in mind. 7 Democrats and 1 independent who's really a Democrat are voting with the Republicans, all but Rand Paul. So that means the overwhelming majority of Democrats still want to cripple the air system, the air control system, and still don't want to feed the needy under the food stamp program, among other things. Among other things. The Democrats don't care about the little guy, whether it's illegal immigration, whether it's crime, whether it's this. They created this situation in the first place. They took really a ministerial act that's not controversial, and they blew it up. They blew it up like legislative terrorists. They want the economy to collapse. They want airlines to come to a halt. They don't want to pay the military. They want ICE to surrender. This is the Democrat Party. That's what they want. So I ask you a question. More and more take over the private sector by the federal government, more and more centralization of decisions by the central government, fewer and fewer Americans in the public sector making these decisions. Instead, we're getting politicians and bureaucrats who are not driven by expertise, who are not driven by public service, but are driven by power and politics. Can you imagine if the entirety of our healthcare system was run by the government? What these same people would do? Shut down the healthcare system? Make sure doctors and nurses aren't paid? Make sure hospitals aren't receiving the monies they need? When you have kamikaze Democrats who are prepared to blackmail in order to get what they want, to expand their power and further centralize government, removing it further and further from we the people. And you see their mindset. It's on display the last 41 days and beyond. If it wasn't for these 8 Democrats, 7 Democrats, 1 phony claims to be an independent, none of this would be resolved. Do you really want Bernie Sanders and Tlaib and these people to have this kind of power? Because the more power the government gets, the more power they have, and the less power you have. If we had the kind of healthcare system that they demand, top-down, iron-fisted, government-run healthcare, a relative handful of people could shut down the entire system for wages, working conditions, or even unrelated to this. Remember the teachers' union in Chicago? How they were shutting down the schools, really having nothing to do with their own salaries, but a whole laundry list of radical left-wing ideas that they wanted funded? That same mentality applied in healthcare, applied in all federal areas. Can you imagine? $1.5 trillion they wanted to spend. $1.5 trillion. So this should demonstrate, and it won't, but it ought to demonstrate once and for all why you don't centralize services, economic decisions, in the hands of a relative few power-hungry politicians and bureaucrats, especially the mindset of the Democrat Party, which is to burn down our system, burn down our economy, burn down whatever you have to burn down to get what you want. And now we get to hear from the Marxists and Islamists in the Democrat Party who say Schumer needs to go. Now, I don't understand this one, Mr. Producer. I'm certainly no fan of Schumer. I've been on his ass for a quarter of a century. But Schumer didn't vote for this. Did he? No. Schumer didn't agree with the other 8. So Schumer has to go? Schumer is a disgusting person, a disgusting political hack. There's no question about it. But they want to punish Schumer. Why, America? Even though he's a quisling. Even though he was silent in the face of Mondami, he didn't endorse him. And so it's time to purify. Because that's what Marxists and Islamists do. They purify. It's time to purify. They want a leader in the Senate who's a saboteur. They want a leader in the Senate who will bring down the whole country because they believe that's how they get power. You and I should stick by our conservative principles. We should demand a consideration of the privatization of the FAA and the TSA. We should fight every effort to centralize any further services and decisions of the government to the government from the private sector, as this is more evidence. And those who conducted a sick-out, because pretty much what happened at the FAA, in my humble opinion, should be punished. Those who stayed, as I believe the president has suggested, should get a bonus. You reward good behavior and you punish bad behavior. Now, it's my intention to fly from Florida to Virginia tomorrow and to do this radio show. But if not on the air, and we will have a sub if that's the case, it'll be because I can't get a flight back. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, I have a question for you. Do you believe America's best days are still ahead? With the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence coming up in less than a year, my friends at the Heritage Foundation are taking stock of the current situation, and they need your input. They've launched a survey on America's future to gauge how Americans feel right now about where we are as a nation and where we're headed in the next 250 years. You know, for decades, your American values have been under attack, but now, with President Trump's administration in office, we have an opportunity to turn the tide and usher in a new golden age for America. But the Heritage Foundation needs to hear from you. What policies do patriots like you most care about? What do you believe are the defining principles of America? What legacy do you believe we should pass on to the next generation? Please visit heritage.org/Levin today and share your feedback and help shape the future of America. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. You know, folks, I'm not trying to pile on, but this has me very disturbed, the fact that our airline system came to a halt or was coming to a halt as a result of air traffic controllers not showing up for work And let's be clear, that's what happened. Putting all the politics and everything else aside. The difficulties. Having to watch the family. 1,000 reasons. You know, Mr. Producer and Mrs. and Miss America, this is what concerns me. If we ever have a draft and we have to go to war, these sorts of things. Can you imagine? Having to leave your family for months at a time, maybe even a year and a half? Losing your pay? And getting paid what soldiers get paid? And putting your life on the line? Can you imagine? Now that is real sacrifice. I look at the IDF. You have men and women. And almost nobody in that society is unaffected. They have to leave their jobs as doctors and nurses, and they have to leave their jobs as electricians and plumbers and construction workers, whatever walk of life. And they have to leave at a moment's notice in order to defend their country. Tremendous dislocation, and not for 41 days, not for 2 or 3 weeks. For 2 years. Nobody's asking air traffic controllers or anybody else to so thoroughly and completely, change their lives and change their livelihoods. The fact of the matter is that over the course of a year, we're talking about 41 days, and people are leaving on their own accord. Well, they're not getting paid. I think what these guys do in the towers is really heroic. I think what happened here is really problematic. If you live in this country or any free country, at least for a period of time, you've all had to struggle hard. Not everybody, but a lot. I don't count myself among those who've had to struggle life and death, but I do know that I was without a paycheck for 11 months. I went through my IRA. I had to refinance my mortgage. Lost almost everything. I didn't blame it on anyone else. In fact, I worked harder and harder and harder to find something, anything. Several decades ago. Nothing was handed to me. I'm just saying, this does happen to people in the private sector. It rarely happens to people in government. But when it does, and you're not a paper pusher, and your job does affect safety, it does affect the well-being of the country. Now, it's not acceptable to walk off your job under cover of sickness or vacation or whatever it is. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is unacceptable. And what the Democrats did here is absolutely unacceptable, but this is no basis for an excuse. There's just none. I'll be right back. We're coming upon the 250th birthday of the United States, and it has me thinking, what will America look like 250 years from now? My friends at the Heritage Foundation want to know what you think. What policies should America prioritize? What principles should carry us into the decades ahead? As America enters a new golden age, Heritage recognizes that this is the time to take stock and to be intentional about how we shape the future of America. And they can't do it without your input. So please go to heritage.org/LEVIN and let them know what you think is important. Without patriots like you stepping up and speaking up for what you believe in, America as we know it can't survive for another 250 years. Please go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/LEVIN. Take the survey on America's future. This survey takes less than 10 minutes to complete, but it is critical for making sure that the America we pass on to future generations is an America we're proud of. Go to heritage.org/Levin today. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Nobody says it better than Mark Levin.
I'll go with what Mark Levin said, because nobody could say it better.
Call in now at 877-381-3811.
Oh, my goodness, we have a lot to get into. Marjorie Trader Greene, it was on to her months ago, really, long time ago. She's a moron. She's an egomaniac. She likes the limelight of the left. A lot of low IQ people do for some reason, Mr. Producer. I don't know what that's all about. We'll get into that. The president had to deal with it today. I've told you these people stabbed the president in the back. Carlson, you know, people like that. Third Reich Bannon, no pants gates. These are all morons. They are what they are, and we have to deal with it because they keep using the lib media to promote themselves. And the lib media want the world to think that we are defined by them, which, of course, we certainly are not. And we never will be. And I want to play some audio if I can get my damn email working. Let's see. Did I get it? No, of course not. Anyway, I will at some point here. I want you to hear Bernie Sanders and some of the others. But before we do, I think the next major subject I want to hit, and then we will circle back. The pardoning of 77 people, I think it was, related to the 2020 campaign challenges. The media are filled with ignoramuses, filled with them, who do not understand the law, the Constitution, our history. You see, America, let me try and put this so even a left-wing goon who will regurgitate what I say and then twist it left and right will understand, even though they'll ignore it. You're allowed to challenge election results. The first time it was done was under John Adams' campaign. And it's been done almost every time since in different ways and different forms. You're allowed to challenge the results, especially if you think the results are wrong. It's your right to demand recounts. It's even your right to have a set of, or a new slate of potential electors sent to the Archivist of the United States. There's actually a legal reason to do that. If you challenge and you win and you don't have that slate of electors with the Archivist of the United States, then you've won nothing because there's nothing to count. But there's nothing obstructive about it. There's nothing illegal about it in any way. In fact, it's been done before. The challenge is to the election in 2020, we're legal. It doesn't matter what a state attorney general says or a DA says. It doesn't matter what crooked Jack Smith said. It doesn't matter what our media say. They are partisan, they are demagogues, and they are stupid. So yes, you can send a substitute slate of electors. That doesn't mean Congress will approve them, and it certainly doesn't mean the Archivist will count them. But the act of doing that is not criminal in any way, which is why they could never really come up with a federal statute that said it was. You can have recounts. Yes, you can ask the state Secretary of State, depending on the law, depending on how it works in a particular state, to do a recount. You can urge them to do it. You can lobby them to do it. There's nothing illegal about it. Nothing. And I could go on, and I have over the years, haven't I? But the scenario has been created, or at least a mindset, I should say, has been created. And you can hear the reporting today that Donald Trump pardoned 77 people who sought to overturn the 2020 election. No, they challenged in various locations the 2020 election results. That's what they did. That is legal. That is constitutional. That is free speech. What did Marx say? What did I do? Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness, what? The Democrats have done it. The Republicans have done it. Third parties who are neither of those parties have done it. There have been challenges on the floor of the House multiple times, including by Democrats, mostly by Democrats, against every Republican elected in my lifetime, as a matter of fact. Okay. There are procedures in place, really very specific procedures in place on whether to entertain them or not. And every state has procedures in place on whether to entertain them or not. So why is it illegal? It's not. It's not illegal. Here we have Bernie Sanders after the vote last night in a video message. This guy is a true blue Stalinist. He's very upset. Very upset because they tried to sabotage our country, tried to grab power, blackmailed the Republicans and the president, and thought it would be a voter juggernaut on their behalf. Here we go. Cut. 5, go.
Tonight, 8 Democrats voted with the Republicans to allow them to go forward on this continuing resolution. And to my mind, this was a very, very bad vote.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, let us be clear. He has made it very, very clear that the funding that was stopping for food stamps, the funding that stopped for the FAA and so forth and so on, the military, that couldn't continue forever. That he did not want those funding measures to take place. You understand? So this is a guy who wants to centralize government and then use it to blackmail his opponents, no matter the cost. No matter the cost. Okay, go ahead.
What it does, first of all, is it raises health care premiums.
The vote does not raise health care premiums. He's a good, he is a Stalinist, but he steals the Goebbels playbook. He really does. That's right, I said it, because he's a detestable commie. It raises health care premiums. No, it doesn't. Obamacare raises health care premiums. Bernie Sanders raised health care premiums. They're the ones who put this in place. This vote has nothing to do with raising health care premiums. Is there a legitimate reporter left anywhere in corporate media besides the handful that we talk to? Is there? Who's going to report on what a liar this thug is? Go ahead.
Million Americans by doubling, and in some cases tripling or quadrupling. People can't afford that.
So how did that happen, Bernie? You voted to do that. When you expanded the Unaffordable Care Act, Obamacare, to cover more people, including those who are not in poverty. You voted to increase the benefits during the pandemic, which was unnecessary. And then you voted against bringing the numbers back down to where they should be in normal times. You broke the back. You broke the back of the healthcare system. You did this, Bernie. If people are without health care, that's due to you. If premiums have doubled and tripled, that's due to you. Go ahead.
We are already paying the highest prices in the world for health care.
No, we don't. No, we don't. About 17% on the dollar is spent on health care. What else should we spend it on? The issue isn't whether we do or don't, actually. We have the best health care system on the planet. You know what they pay for health care in Venezuela? Nothing, because they get it nothing. So this jackass would have you compare our health care system to Venezuela or to Cuba or to Bolivia or to these hellholes, these poor hellholes, Marxist, socialist hellholes. We pay the most than anybody else. You know what else he's not considering? In Britain and France and the rest. What about the tax rates and the amount of that money that goes into their so-called healthcare systems? He doesn't count that either. Now, he just blew the lid off of Obamacare, he and they. And then he has the gall, really in the next sentence, to talk about how we have the most expensive healthcare system in the world. He and his Democrats blew the lid off of Obamacare They're demanding that hundreds of billions of dollars be poured into it rather than changing it and fixing it. And then he has the gall to talk about how we spend more on health care than any country in the world. Go ahead.
It's the way for 15 million people to be thrown off of Medicaid in the Affordable Care Act. Studies show
15 million people are not going to be thrown off Medicaid. Now, what is he doing here? What's the trick, Mr. Producer? He's combining Medicaid and affordable and Obamacare, right? Obamacare is not Medicaid. This jerk took $770 billion out of Medicare to pay for Obamacare when he voted for it 12 years ago. They stripped Medicare. You, who paid into Medicare and still pay into Medicare, an insurance program, he took nearly $1 trillion out of that and put it into Obamacare. And now he talks about the Republicans wanting to take 15 million people off of Medicaid in the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. They want to take illegal aliens off of Medicaid. And they want able-bodied Americans who won't even put in 20 hours in volunteer work a week to get off the system too, because the incentive is for them to stay on the system and not contribute to it. That's what he's defending. Go ahead.
That some 50,000...
shut up, you bastard. I can't stand you anyway. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, I have a question for you. Do you believe America's best days are still ahead? With the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence coming up in less than a year, my friends at the Heritage Foundation are taking stock of the current situation, and they need your input. They've launched a survey on America's future to gauge how Americans feel right now about where we are as a nation and where we're headed in the next 250 years. You know, for decades, your American values have been under attack, but now, with President Trump's administration in office, we have an opportunity to turn the tide and usher in a new golden age for America. But the Heritage Foundation needs to hear from you. What policies do patriots like you most care about? What do you believe are the defining principles of America? What legacy do you believe we should pass on to the next generation? Please visit heritage.org/Levin today and share your feedback and help shape the future of America. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. You know, we're winning the battle back in D.C. right now, as you can see, because it was unsustainable for the Democrats. You know, blackmail is not going to get you that far, not with Trump, not with the Speaker, and not with Thune. And they, quote-unquote, got nothing. People understand it's impossible to reduce the debt if you add $1.5 trillion for illegal aliens and all the rest of it. Well, I see Sergio Gore, the assistant to the president for presidential personnel, was sworn in today to be the ambassador of India. I didn't get my invitation. Did you, Mr. Producer? I wonder why. I couldn't get there. Obviously, I'm in Florida, but that's not the point. I mean, gee willikers. I think he was sworn in by the vice president. Isn't that right? Yeah. Okay, well, we wish our friend Sergio all the best. Depending on what kind of Indian food you eat, some of it's really good. Don't you think, Mr. Producer? He's going to be ambassador to India. Yeah. So from afar, we wish our friend Sergio all the best. All the best. He'll be heading out there in January to a big job. Very, very important, as far as I'm concerned. I'm sure he'll do a fantastic job. And we wish him all the best. Let's see here. We have, hold on, folks. There's this guy, Khanna. What is his first name? I don't remember, Mr. Ro Khanna. He always wanted to come on the show. He pretended to be a moderate, but I could tell he was a fraud and a fake and a phony. A fraud and a fake and a phony. It's time for Schumer to leave. Look, I don't give a damn if Schumer leaves or not. That's not my point. My point is, it's not clear to me why on this issue he should leave when he was doing their dirty work. But here he is on the floor of the Senate, face up for once. Cut 3, go.
Therefore, I must vote no. This health care crisis is so severe, so urgent, so devastating for families back home that I cannot in good faith support this CR that fails to address the health care crisis. But let me be clear, however this vote turns out, this fight will and must continue. Democrats must fight because of millions of families will lose health care coverage. We must fight because children who are dying of cancer will not get health care coverage.
Now, folks, you do understand, folks, that they blew up Obamacare, right? And they're trying to project it onto somebody else. They blew it up. They blew it up. Go ahead.
Citizen cannot afford to pay $25,000 a year just for health insurance.
No, they can't. So it's not the Affordable Care Act. Why don't you admit it, Schumer and all you other goons on the left, all the rest of the Democrat, and their friends in the media that push like hell for Obamacare, the Unaffordable Care Act, when people like me said this can't work, when you were told you're going to get a $2,500 reduction in your premium, it didn't happen because they lie and they lie and they lie again, and they're lying now. And the Republicans have said, let's get through the continuing resolution. These premiums will go up in a few months. Let's see if we can't replace this or reform it. We just can't keep pouring hundreds of billions of dollars into it. And they won't do it. Go ahead.
To keep millions from financial ruin.
So this is like the arsonist, you know? It's burning down the house. Not his, of course, the neighbor's. And then starts lecturing everybody about good habits when it comes to using fire. Cut 3, go.
And make no mistake about it,
Forward.
The American people know who is inflicting this health care trauma on them.
Let me be clear. So it's their program. They imploded it under Biden. They expanded it and increased the subsidies under Biden. They were in charge up to 8 months ago, and they expanded the subsidies for 1 year, meaning it ends December 31st, they and Biden. There's a continuing resolution vote coming up in late September. And then they say, no, it's time to fix this. Fix it now. And the Republicans say, no, we'll fix it at the end of the year. We've got to get the government run. And that's where they take their stand. And that's not originally why they took the stand in the first place, health care for Americans. They originally took the stand because they wanted health care for illegal aliens. It's pretty sick, isn't it? And who do they blame it on? Donald Trump and the Republicans, who kept saying, open it up, open it up, open it up, open up. No. It's the fault of Donald Trump and the Republicans. Now, here's the truth. The vast majority of Americans are unaffected by this. The vast majority of Americans are not on Obamacare. But it is a big issue because these people have destroyed a big chunk of our healthcare system, and it spreads like cancer. It metastasizes into all healthcare, private and public. And so the Republicans know they have to fix what the Democrats blew up, what they started and blew up, but they have to do it wisely. Be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, hello, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. I want you to hear some of these senators what they had to say about their votes one way or the other. But before I do, you know, I've been one of those leading the way to expose Marjorie Trader Greene, and she has an E on the end of her name. She reminded me once. I think the things she has said are quite bigoted in many cases. I think she's kind of a lunatic in many regards. She's kind of Tucker Carlson in a dress. Although I suppose Carlson from time to time may wear a dress when the demons are chasing him, but I don't know. I would never say such a thing. Nonetheless, they're peas in a pod or insane in a padded room. And I've been warning folks about it. She comes from a heavily Republican district. I believe it's the most Republican district in Georgia, one of the most Republican districts in the country. So it's not a race she really has to worry about. Go ahead, primary me. But in any event, she's been stabbing Donald Trump in the back repeatedly. She's, I haven't changed. I'm doing the right thing. And they love her on The View. The yentas on The View, morons all. They love her in the media, the left-wing media, the corporate media. They've been building her up. They can't stand her. You know, Rush used to talk about this sort of thing where they try and turn conservatives, and they do that by lavishing praise on them, slobbering on them. And the weak ones, the egomaniacs, this works. You know, it worked for Harry Blackman when he was a Supreme Court justice who wrote the Roe v. Wade decision. So they know how to pick at the weakest in the herd or the weakest link in the chain, and she's the weakest link. Trust me on that. Certainly from the neck up. Nonetheless, the president's asked about her, and here's what he says today. Cut one, go.
I don't know what happened to Marjorie. She's a nice woman, but I don't know what happened. She's lost her way, I think. But I have to view the presidency as a worldwide situation, not locally. I mean, we could have a world that's on fire where wars come to our shores very easily if you had a bad president. We had a horrible president, and we ended up with Russia-Ukraine, and we ended up with other disasters, too. Don't forget, I put out 8 wars, 9 to come. I think I'll get the other one taken care of, but I put out 8 wars. And look at the damage that Russia-Ukraine has done to us as a country. I mean, we spent $350 billion. We're not spending any money anymore. Now they pay us through NATO.
How can it possibly be said that Trump hasn't spent an enormous amount of time on domestic affairs, whether it's immigration, this big, beautiful bill? We've never seen a bill of that consequence pass one bill on one vote like that. Massive tax cuts for the American people. I could go on and on and on. The things he's done in 8-9 months as a president domestically, put aside foreign policy, unparalleled. So when you have this being said, and by Sean Davis over at the Federalist and so forth, stop it with the foreign stuff. Focus on domestic. What are they talking about? What are they talking about? They're panicking because of what they saw in New Jersey and Virginia and New York City. They're panicking. And midterm elections are tough. And this one's going to be tough. Very hard. I think only 2 or 3 times in the entire century, past century plus this one, has the party in power held on or won the House of Representatives. I understand why people are worried. But I don't think piling on Trump and stabbing him in the back, focus on domestic affairs. He is focusing on domestic affairs a lot. Can you name a president who's focused more in recent history? I can't. So the knee-jerk reaction shouldn't be to attack Trump. It shouldn't be. And it's all the same cabal coming out of that same sort of bizarre cabal in the conservative movement of the Republican Party. But let's continue. President goes on. Cut 2, go.
But with all of that, I passed a great, big, beautiful bill, which is the biggest tax cuts in the history of our country. So when somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's now catering to the other side, I don't know what, I guess she's, got some kind of an act going, but I'm surprised at her. But when somebody like Marjorie goes over and starts making statements like that, it shows she doesn't know.
No, she knows. She's self-promoting. That's what she's doing. People have written about this, and they're right. She's not accomplishing anything. She's not really doing anything. Where is our health care bill, Mr. Speaker? Where is it? I don't know. As somebody said, where's yours? You know how to write, don't you? Or at least you hire people who know how to write, right? Yes. And so I thought the president's points were very important, just like when he called Carlson kook and kooky. These people need to be called out because if we lose the midterms, God forbid, it's going to be because of people like them. Them. People want nothing to do with Hitler. They want nothing to do with Holocaust deniers. They want nothing to do with people who trash the greatest generation. Nothing. They want nothing to do with racists and bigots and anti-Semites. Nothing. And they're taking up a lot of oxygen doing what they're doing. A lot. Tim Kaine, he's a weirdo. But he represents Virginia, and there's more bureaucrats in Virginia than any other state. Wasn't always that way, but it is now. And he figured, I better open up the government because I got to get reelected here. Cut 6, go.
Do you wish that you would have started looking for this off-ramp sooner? You said that Republicans were never going to change in their position.
I didn't fully understand how dug in they were, again, because I was so focused on the Virginia elections. I wasn't in this discussion on the healthcare to see how dug in they were.
Now, isn't that damning? Look, I was so busy on politics, I wasn't paying attention to what was happening to my state and the country. Is that okay? Is that okay? And what does he mean, dug in? They weren't going to be blackmailed. It's that simple. Go ahead.
But even as I was not part of these discussions, I was saying to Thune and others on the floor going back, listen, I need you. Some of you heard me say this in the hall. I need a moratorium on mischief. Others are working on the healthcare thing. I trust them. Others are working on the approach thing. I trust them. I need a moratorium on mischief, because if we vote to open and then the immediate step next week is Donald Trump fires a lot more people, it's going to blow up trust to get the full year deal. And so I've been preaching
all right,
this.
This guy with his word salad, he's a quisling. He decided that he did a poll and he saw that he needed to vote with the Republicans in order to get this thing open. Jean Shaheen from New Hampshire, she's been opposed to the shutdown from day one. She was on the Morning Schmo show. Cut 7, go.
Well, I think the shutdown has really, as Joe said so well, crystallized for Americans the fight around health care and who's for making sure that people can afford their health insurance and who's willing to let them pay higher costs. It gives us the opportunity to have a vote on a bill that we will write by mid-December, and Americans will have another chance to see who's on their side and who's not. I hope that our Republican colleagues understand now that this is an issue that affects millions of Americans, and we need to address it. But unfortunately, we've got, after 40 days, we've got, as you pointed out, air traffic control that's a mess. We've got government workers who are not getting paid. We've got people who can't get food. We've got mothers and children who can't get their WIC benefits. And so we need to end that suffering.
So you understand she's doing a laundry list of these subsidy programs. And the Democrats want to have a longer list of subsidy programs for tens of millions of more Americans. Now, the vast majority of them, keep in mind, the vast majority are opposed to this, so they can continue to blackmail us to surrender our liberty, to surrender our money. That's what they're all about. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
There's a reason I'm proud to say Pure Talk is my wireless company, because they don't just talk the talk, they walk the walk, especially when it comes to supporting our veterans. This month, Pure Talk is choosing to support Canines for Warriors, an incredible organization that rescues and trains dogs, then pairs them with veterans struggling with PTSD. These are men and women who serve with honor, but when they come home, their brotherhood and support network they had in the military too often disappears. Canines for Warriors steps up to fill the gap, giving these heroes purpose, companionship, and healing. That's exactly why Pure Talk, a veteran-led company, supports them. Choose a wireless company that shares your values. And with talk, text, and plenty of 5G data for just $25 a month, you could also be saving a ton of money. Go to puretalk.com/Levin to make the switch today. Again, go to puretalk.com/LEVIN and switch to America's wireless company, my wireless company, Pure Talk. Welcome back, America. We're here with my old buddy Chip Roy. It's been a while, Mr. Roy, and we've missed you very, very much. You're running hard, Tell everybody, by the way, what you're running for, why you're running for it in Texas. Give out your information so we can get that out there, and I want to jump into some of these issues with you.
Sounds great. Thanks, Mark. Great to be on the show as always. Miss you.
You too.
Look, I'm, obviously I've been blessed to be in Congress, 4th term. I'm 7 years in. I got another year. But, look, there's got to be
sounds like prison.
Yeah, well, you know what? True. But I'm actually proud. And I think you and I have talked about this, about how much we've moved the needle, landing the plane, fighting for conservative things, but then trying to figure out how to get things done, like during the speaker's battle and during all of the things we've done that we're now delivering for the president. And, not everything you and I would want. We got to do more, but we're getting there. So, look, my kids are in 9th grade and 10th grade. If I run for Congress one more time, they're off to college. I want to be home in Texas. That's personal. My wife's been carrying the load. But number two, and more importantly for the country and for the state of Texas, the state of Texas is under attack. And it is under attack by a comprehensive network of radical Marxists and Islamists that are trying to take away Texas from us and from America. And it's real and it's open, and you know it and I know it. And it's the open border crowd. It's the Soros-funded DAs putting criminals on the streets. And it's the radical Islamification of Texas with Epic City and this Houston, Islamic Center. And
150,000 square feet. This Islamic Center in Houston. It's massive.
Yeah, and this is direct, is purposeful. And you know it, and I know it. And frankly, the leadership of Texas knows it. And so, with all respect, we need someone here who's willing to stand up and shout from the rooftops to the entire state of Texas and the world that that's not going to happen. That this nation is founded on Judeo-Christian principles, the Constitution, Western civilization, Sharia law is in direct conflict with both of them. And we've got to stand up and fight it. And then, there's a lot of other issues at play. But at the end of the day, Texas just needs strong leadership right now, because if we lose Texas, we lose the country. And I'm a former federal prosecutor, former first assistant AG. I've been on the House Judiciary Committee. I've been a lawyer on the Senate Judiciary Committee. You know me, I'm steeped in the law, not as much as you, but, I bring a pretty good wealth of experience, and I think it's time, and God's got me here at the right time and right place.
And you're a fantastic human being. You're a buddy of mine. You were chief of staff for quite a while to Ted Cruz. You supported him early on, too, and our families are very close. And you're running for Attorney General of Texas. So if people in Texas or in the country want to help you, where do they go?
Thanks, Mark. Chiproy.com, CHIPROY.com. And then on Twitter and X, it's ChipRoyTX. And look, I wouldn't be in Congress without your support. I certainly won't be able to do this without the support of your many listeners and all the great patriots out there. And look, we're up in the polls. We're doing great. We're raising money, but we got to keep our foot on the gas and finish this and win the primary, get it done in March, and then get busy finishing my time in Congress and then building the plans to have a really aggressive Attorney General's office.
And I strongly, strongly endorse Chip Roy. Now, Chip, who are you running against?
I'm running against three people, 2 state senators, and then another guy who's never held elected office. Look, they all have their pros and cons, but here's what I would tell you. My litmus test is this. I think it needs to be somebody who's held elected office. That rules out one of them. I think it needs to be somebody who's actually been in a courtroom, stood in front of a judge and represented the state and been in battle in the court. And that rules out 1 or 2 of my other competitors. And then the third is you need somebody who's got a stellar conservative record. And if you look at my scores down, up and down, this, like A+, 195s from every organization, it's relatively unassailable. So you need a proven conservative who's been in court and who's held elected office. That's me, and it's not my competitors. That's Mays Middleton, Joan Huffman, and Aaron Wrights. None of whom I think bring what I bring to the office of the Attorney General.
No offense. Of course, I'm not in Texas, none of whom I've ever heard of before. Now, Chip Roy.
Right.
Look what the Democrats do. They blow up Obamacare, which was never going to work, the so-called Affordable Care Act. Then they want hundreds of billions of dollars in subsidies, and they want it now. They don't just want to vote on health care. They say they want an outcome on that vote. So they blackmail the Republicans. They blackmail the president in the course of a continuing resolution. And so their Obamacare doesn't work. And now you got, Stalinists like Bernie Sanders out there saying, look at all the people who are not going to have health care. Didn't Bernie Sanders and Obama and the Democrats do this?
Well, Mark is exactly right. It's all purposeful. And I think here's what's fascinating about what we're experiencing. And I hope this is actually a great blessing. Okay. The Democrats are fully giving up the deal. They're giving up the gig. They're outing themselves. They come out and say, we need these COVID, subsidies that Biden did that were extra and that were supposed to be temporary, that no Republican voted for. We need these in order for Obamacare to, quote unquote, work. I mean, even the Washington Post said the, quote, Affordable Care Act has never been affordable. And the fact is that the gig is up and everybody sees it. And now the Democrats, who used a political shutdown to try to pick a fight on health care because they didn't have a fight. They needed something to be able to run on. And I think they started to see they're losing it. And they're losing it because President Trump was wise and willing to say, no, I'm not going to play your game. I'm not going to let you hold not just the government hostage, but continue to hold the American people hostage to a broken healthcare system. And he 2 days ago tweeted out, I think very wisely, guys, if you're going to subsidize something, we'll take a subsidy and we'll make sure the American people can use health savings accounts. Now, you and I don't love subsidies at all. But if you're going to choose something, let's make it about the people being able to go in the marketplace and have tax advantage plans and health savings accounts and so forth, not enriching the insurance companies, which is what Democrats are doing. And that's the right fight because we're winning it.
What do you make of this Mamdani in New York? I haven't heard your views on this yet.
Well, look, I think Mamdani is...
Something tells me you're not a supporter.
Yeah, I mean... Good grief, Mark. I mean, what we're seeing right now
Crazy.
In terms of this, Islamification, like people say, well, he's the canary in the coal mine. No, he's not. The canary in the coal mine was years ago. Things like the Holy Land Foundation in Dallas, what we've been seeing in London and in Paris and watching churches and synagogues burning, what we've seen obviously with Hamas on October 7th, but going back decades. And in this country, Dearborn, Michigan, Minnesota, that, Ilhan Omar gets elected, right? People go, oh, we should kick her out of Congress. Well, okay, great. Let's kick her out of Congress. Guess what? Those same 750,000 Americans are going to elect another radical because we've allowed that to infest our communities and our homes in the false name of the First Amendment. Because we've been allowing people to come here who don't believe in our system, who don't believe in Western civilization or the Constitution. They believe in advancing, promoting, and frankly, a takeover with Sharia law. Mamdani has basically said it. His dad was justifying suicide bombers. Mamdani's been hanging out with imams who say all sorts of radical things, praise October 7th, pal around with CARE. And by the way, I introduced legislation last week to take away the C3 status from CARE. And thank you for your tweet of that because it's just absurd. Why are we giving a tax break to an organization
don't hang up.
No, with terrorism?
That was great. That was very, very important because they are the enemy. We're going to be back with Chip Roy's running for Attorney General in Texas. Has my full support. All you Levinites, I'd like you to get behind him. It doesn't get any better than Chip. We'll be right back. There's a reason I'm proud to say Pure Talk is my wireless company, because they don't just talk the talk, they walk the walk, especially when it comes to supporting our veterans. This month, Pure Talk is choosing to support Canines for Warriors, an incredible organization that rescues and trains dogs, then pairs them with veterans struggling with PTSD. These are men and women who serve with honor, but when they come home, their brotherhood and support network they had in the military too often disappears. Canines for Warriors steps up to fill the gap, giving these heroes purpose, companionship, and healing. That's exactly why Pure Talk, a veteran-led company, supports them. Choose a wireless company that shares your values. And with talk, text, and plenty of 5G data for just $25 a month, you could also be saving a ton of money. Go to puretalk.com/Levin to make the switch today. Again, go to puretalk.com/LEVIN and switch to America's wireless company, my wireless company, Pure Talk.
Mark Levin, the thunder on the right. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
Back with our friend Chip Roy. Chip Roy, I want to circle back a little bit. This movement of a mass population in the building of cities out of nowhere of Islamists is obviously strategic to try and and take down Texas so we can never win an election again. How are Texans dealing with this, particularly those in government?
Well, I think what you're seeing is some people are now waking up a little late, but they're waking up to the reality. Again, I mentioned earlier the Holy Land Foundation. Mm-hmm. Well, that was, I'm pulling this from memory, Mark, but I think that was like 2001 or 2. It goes back like 2 decades.
Why do I think that was 1993? I could be dead wrong, though.
Whatever it was a long time ago. And that was, a huge Muslim charity, right? And the feds shut them down and went after them because they were literally funneling money to terrorists and specifically Hamas. And we've got now a wide-ranging network of these organizations.
By the way, you're right. You're right. 2020, 2021. Go ahead.
Okay, good. So if I go back and say, okay, take a step back from what I was saying before. It's not just the Islamist issue, although to me that's the number one. If you go look at the entire network of this Marxist Islamist, movement, you got the group that is the Soros-funded, outfit. You've got all the Democratic operatives up there that are running all this stuff. You've got 250 groups that were funneling people into the open borders. You've got this Islamification subset. You've got the Southern Poverty Law Center. You've got Antifa. And Arabella, right, is that group of the Democrat operatives. All of them are all in a network. And they're shuffling around billions of dollars, foreign money, government grant money, our own tax money. And if you were to plot this out in the grand, conspiracy that we got going on, there's no question that there's RICO activity, that there's, terrorism involved with it. If you look at the funding and connect all the dots, the Democrats, though, and the liberals and the Marxists that are involved in all these organizations, they've been laundering all this crap for years. And we've just been sitting around going, free speech and the First Amendment. You and I are constitutionalists, and we'll die on the hill to protect free speech and the First Amendment. But it doesn't mean you can allow people to have literally these organizations designed and built to take out our country from within, right? And that's what's happening. And we're going to have to recognize it. And that's one of the reasons I'm running for AG is we've got to take them on.
And that's the thing is AG. Here's the thing. Let me give you an example. Our residence is mostly in Florida here. Mine permanently. I don't have to wake up every day in this state, Chip Roy, and look over my shoulder and wonder what Ron DeSantis is doing and worry about it. I know he's going to do the right thing. He has the right instinct. He's a principled conservative. He's demonstrated that time and time again. I would view you the same way in Texas. I wouldn't have to wake up, look over my shoulder. What is the Attorney General doing? The Attorney General will be under you, like DeSantis here as governor, 10 steps ahead. Okay, what am I going to do about this? How do I fight this? And so forth and so on. That is the kind of proactive conservatism that we need. Are we seeing more of that, less of that, or none of that?
Well, I think the president is doing a good job of leaning into the important fights of the day in a way that I've never seen anybody do, right? And you were, God bless you, you were early on recognizing that and promoting it. And, I don't think we've got nearly enough of looking around the bend, but I'll say it's getting better. Let me give you an example. Totally different issue than dealing with the Islamification Marxist issue, although it's all related. But last year when we were setting up the big, beautiful bill, well, a year ago, Russ Vought, my good friend over at OMB, friends of mine in the Freedom Caucus and the administration, we all got together, a group of us, we said, all right, how are we going to get this done? And we laid out a plan for doing it. The $150 billion for defense money, the $150 billion for border money. So we knew we could preempt their shutdown. We thought a year ahead, we knew they were going to shut it down. So you got to look around the curve, and then you got to prepare for it. And then we laid the groundwork, and we got the Freedom Caucus to say, look, we normally don't support debt ceiling increases. We normally don't support another pot of money for defense, in an appropriation in a reconciliation bill. But we did it anyway because we trusted the president, we trusted Russ, and we trusted Hegseth, and we trust the Tom Homan and the DHS folks to secure the border, and they are. And guess what? Then we could tell the Democrats to pound sand right now. And that's what we just did. That's what leadership is. You got to look ahead. You got to figure out how to get there. You got to build a team and to build a coalition and then go do it. And that's what I think we're seeing better now. But, man, we got a lot of catch up to do because the leftists have been ahead of us for decades.
Do you feel we're going to be able to hold on to Texas for the next quarter century or half a century?
only if we fight right now. Only if we fight right now and recognize that you've got to actually admit there's a war to win it. And unfortunately, too many people in the state don't recognize that our way of life is under full assault and attack. And we've got to get busy protecting it. Too many non-Texans own Texas land and Texas houses and Texas ranches and Texas beef and Texas meat packing facilities and our businesses and our small businesses. And we got in our universities, frankly, we need Texans to own Texas and promote Texas values. And if we do that and we reclaim it, then we'll be fine. The spirit here is good. But there are a lot of people here who have been shipped in for either cheap labor or for, frankly, high-tech labor, frankly, open borders, and frankly, a lot of hiding behind, oh, isn't it great? We're going to have all these people. They're going to come over here, and they're going to with our universities, and, you know, we're going to do these deals with the Middle East. And like, hold on a second. Who are you bringing here and why? And I think people are taking a long, hard look at that now and waking up to it.
I think you're right. So if people want to help you again, and we're going to have it on all our social sites, where do they go, Chip Roy?
ChipRoy.com, ChipRoy.com. Would love to have a famous old Levin surge. Love to have any support. It's great. It's needed. You know, we're doing well, but you know, we got to get the word out.
When is this? When is this election?
So March 2nd. We're a very early primary. So early voting starts February, I think, 17th or 18th, and so we're 3 months out from early voting.
All right, you're going to let me know when the voting starts, and you'll come on, and we will do a big Levin surge. We're going to push you over the finish line. Not that you need it, but we want to make sure it happens.
Yeah, well, we want to win. We don't want to have a runoff. We want to win on March 2nd. And look, I've got a real job. I've got a day job in Congress, so I'm going to be doing a lot of this virtually because we're 2-vote majority. I got to be in D.C. I can't not do my job. So we're beating the pavement now. We're traveling all over the state. We're going back to D.C. tomorrow, obviously, and next week. And so we'll keep at it, and Billy, good brother, you're doing all that you can do to save this country, both as a lawyer and as a spokesman, and I'm deeply appreciative of you and your family.
You're a good man, likewise, brother. All right, we'll be back. You'll circle back, and we'll get you back, and we will do a massive Levin surge. Chip Roy, that's who I endorse strongly. How long have I known you now?
Well, we've known each other for almost 20 years. About 17 years ago, I reached out to you for advice when I was doing some work with Governor Perry. You remember?
That's right.
And and then we built a friendship from there, and our great, your family, and then Mr. Producer and everybody. So it's just a great team.
All right, man. Be safe out there. It's tough. Be careful. God bless you.
God bless you, sir. See you soon.
All right, you too. Just a good guy. Just a good guy. And we're definitely going to help him. As a matter of fact, we're going to figure out who to help throughout the primaries and throughout the general. We're going to do what we do here with Levin surges and you Levinites out there. You know, it cracks me up. The Hill newspaper, they got these two goofballs who are interviewing each other. You see them, Mr. Producer? They don't even know who I am. And you know, one of the defenders of Tucker Carlson said, he's in the top 10 of podcasters. Levin isn't even in the top 200. Am I a podcaster, Mr. Producer? I'm not a podcaster. So, I mean, we've got millions and millions of people in what we call radio. So I'm not a podcaster. Now, we run the show on a podcast and so forth, but that's the show we put on podcast to make it available to everybody. But if I were only a podcaster and not on radio, I'd be kicking their asses. I really would. I mean, people are going to say, well, how do you know? I just know. I just know you Levinites out there. You never know. We might do it one day. Who knows? What do you want me to do, Rich? Sorry, buddy. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
There's a reason I'm proud to say Pure Talk is my wireless company, because they don't just talk the talk, they walk the walk, especially when it comes to supporting our veterans. This month, Pure Talk is choosing to support Canines for Warriors, an incredible organization that rescues and trains dogs, then pairs them with veterans struggling with PTSD. These are men and women who serve with honor, but when they come home, their brotherhood and support network they had in the military too often disappears. Canines for Warriors steps up to fill the gap, giving these heroes purpose, companionship, and healing. That's exactly why Pure Talk, a veteran-led company, supports them. Choose a wireless company that shares your values. And with talk, text, and plenty of 5G data for just $25 a month, you could also be saving a ton of money. Go to puretalk.com/Levin to make the switch today. Again, go to puretalk.com/LEVIN and switch to America's wireless company, my wireless company, Pure Talk. Dave Portnoy, I don't know him, but many people do, and they certainly know of him. Barstool Sports on CBS Sunday Morning. And he's now confronting something that your host has been confronting nonstop now for months and months and months. Cut 14, go.
I've seen in my own experience, just in Barstool, the difference between how much hate I get. I mean, occasionally you get, hey, or Jew or whatever. It's every day now. Like, there's a definitive shift in what's going on. So, yes, now I for me, being a Jewish person, like, you gotta step up. You're kind of someone people look up to in the Jewish community. You have to be like, all right, this is not normal, ha-ha, with the guys. People are coming in with real hate.
Yeah. It's funny how people live in different lanes, isn't it, Rich? Now, we've been battling this literally month after month after month after month. I've been discussing about it on air, on TV. I hope you heard my monologue, particularly Sunday night. And Senator Cruz and Governor DeSantis were absolutely fabulous. Elise Stefanik Monday was fabulous. So was Gene Hamilton, who runs the wonderful legal group, America First Legal. We have a wonderful legal group, too, Landmark Legal Foundation, and Pete Hutchison. But I'm just saying, if you go and look at the comments section on any time I post anything, I'd say it has nothing to do with even current events. A lot of this, 90% of it is the bots, these foreign countries coming out of Pakistan and other majority Muslim countries, coming out of Russia, communist China. I know that. We know that. A bunch of them are also the gropers. Fuentes' massive circle jerk. May I say, Mr. Producer? Am I allowed to say that? I think I am. And the gropers and the prepubescents and those types. But most of it is planted. But he's right about the hate. I've never seen anything like this in my life either. And I think the bigots are out of the closet now. They're crawling around like cockroaches. And I also think when you look at the influx of Islamists into this country, enormous influx over the last decade or so, maybe 2 decades, their presence is obvious. And now people are trashing, of course, Christians as well, as they must. Because in order to impose their ideology, whether it's Marxism or Islamism, Judaism and Christianity are in the way. This is why I fight these guys as hard as I possibly can. We have a situation now with Carlson. There's a piece in Mediaite. Now, look, I'm not a big Mediaite fan, but there's a couple of guys writing over there, even guys I never used to like. Excuse me, but I'm starting to like Isaac Shore. He's doing a good job. Before he was, running with these goofball headlines, but he's not anymore. And so he deserves credit where credit is due. It doesn't mean they won't force him to do it anyway. But he's written great pieces. And in the next hour, I'm going to read part of one piece in which Carlson is actually platforming a guy who appears to have been on a certain type of payroll and who is downplaying the slaughter of Christians in Nigeria. Folks, when you lose a sense of the importance of human life, when you lose morality, when you pick Hamas terrorists over Jews trying to defend themselves, then you pick Islamists over black Christians who are trying to defend themselves. It's a slippery slope, but Carlson's on it. And so is Marjorie Trader Greene, and so is the Fraud Room, the Bloated Bannon, so is No Pants Gates, the whole cabal. But I want to focus on this particular story because it's pretty grotesque. I think you need to know about it. We'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. By the way, here in Florida, South Florida, the temperature is supposed to drop into the low 40s tonight or tomorrow night, one of these nights. I think that's great. You know, kill all the mosquitoes. That's okay. You're not a mosquito lover, are you, Mr. Producer? No. So here's the story by Isaac Shore. Tucker Carlson guest who downplayed Christian persecution in Nigeria actually defended alleged Nigerian persecutor of Christians. Now, why would you platform people like this? You really have to look for thugs and goons like this. Why do you do that unless you're mentally ill, in my humble opinion? Tucker Carlson hailed attorney Bob Amsterdam for, quote, defending Christians around the world, unquote, and is, quote, one of the people that I talk to most off camera about what is happening to the Christian population of the world, unquote, in an interview published last week. During their conversation, Amsterdam downplayed allegations of anti-Christian persecution in Nigeria. He did not disclose, however, that he had previously worked as a lawyer for Nasir El-Rufai, a Nigerian politician with a track record of persecuting Christians. A 2021 report put together by the International Christian Concern, a persecution watchdog group, contains startling accusations against El-Rufai. Again, El-Rufai was his client, according to this. It was written within a few minutes of sunset, slated for 6:14 that day, on Christmas Eve 2016, when Fulani militants stormed the village of Kaska in central Nigeria's Kaduna state. The assault didn't last long, but before disappearing into the dim brush surrounding Kaska, the Fulani militant attackers managed to burn 80 houses, wound dozens of villagers. 14 villagers died, including women and children. The attack attracted international attention because it happened while Kaska was rendered helpless by the Kaduna state governor, Nasir El-Rufai, who just 5 days prior had ordered the residents of the Jima's local government area, where Kaska is located, into complete lockdown. The lockdown, ostensibly designed to prevent attacks by banning all movement, was enacted after protests of our Rufai administration's lackluster response to violence. The month leading up to the attack saw 102 people killed, 215 injured, and an estimated 50,000 houses burned across 5 Christian farming communities in Jema, a jurisdiction smaller than the city of Houston. But El-Rufai's administration only enforced the Kaska lockdown against villagers who reported that members of nomadic Fulani groups moved about freely in the days leading up to the attack. So he locks down the villagers. The terrorists are free to move around. So he's setting up the villagers, obviously. International Christian Concern went on to allege that El-Rufai's revived its antiquated rule from Nigeria's years under military dictatorship to regulate religious leaders and religious teachings in Kaduna. He's also been widely criticized for declaring that anyone, soldier or not, that kills the Fulunis takes a loan repayable one day, no matter how long it takes. After Carlson and Amsterdam, after he asked Amsterdam to give him the actual truth, quote unquote, of Christian persecution in Nigeria on a show, this lawyer Amsterdam touted his ties to current Nigerian government and insisted the attacks from Islamic terrorists are, quote, not targeted at Christians, unquote. Nigeria wants to consult with the United States. Nigeria wants assistance in protecting Christians and Muslims, protecting their population, said the lawyer. Quote, Ted Cruz is upset about what's happening in Nigeria to Christians. I'm not against him being upset about that. You say it's much more complicated than he's presenting, probably more tribal than religious. This is, of course, Carlson running cover. I don't know much about it, but how much has Ted Cruz said that the U.S. funded destruction of Ukraine Orthodox Church? Asked, is he? Carlson's a sick man, in my opinion. He's unhinged. There's something truly ill with this guy. So Ted Cruz speaks up for Christians in Nigeria being slaughtered. And for Carlson, it's a debating point about how often he's spoken up about the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. Just sick. I don't know, about as often as you've spoken up for Jews who've been slaughtered in Israel, you little bastard. In addition to representing El Rufai in a 2009 corruption case, lawyer Amsterdam has represented the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, the Moscow Patriarch, which the Ukrainian government alleges has connections to Russia. The authoritarian regime often praised by Carlson that invaded Ukraine in 2022. In an interview with the Washington Compost last year, Amsterdam, this lawyer, appeared to echo Russian propaganda, and he quotes it. And it goes on. Carlson's dismissal of the plight of Nigerian Christians is notable, given his stated interest in the well-being of Christians around the globe. Much of his focus in this regard has been concentrated on Ukraine and Israel. Neither are included on Open Doors' watch list, because Ukraine is not slaughtering Christians, and neither is Israel. In fact, Israel is defending them and protecting them. I have a little piece of information I wanted to pass along with you from Yael Eckstein, International Fellowship of Christian Jews. When we spoke today in our joint podcast, almost 1.7 million Muslims live in Israel, 20% of the population. Did you know that, Mr. Producer? Do you know how many Jews live outside of Israel in the Middle East? 15,000. 15,000. Almost 1.7 Muslims live in Israel. Do you know that in the UAE and Jordan and Morocco and Egypt, to name just a few Arab countries, they have outlawed the flying of the Palestinian flags, Mr. Producer? They have outlawed the flying of the Hamas flag, Islamic Jihad, Muslim Brotherhood. No Free Palestine flags? Because they know these are terrorist organizations that will overthrow their monarchies or overthrow their otherwise governments. So they're not allowed to fly these flags in these Arab countries. Many of them. Many of them. I'm trying to encourage you people to distance yourself as fast as you can from this cabal who's going to destroy MAGA, going to destroy the conservative movement. That's their effort. Who's going to destroy the GOP and our chances to hold off the Democrats in the midterm elections. We lose these midterm elections. There'll be many reasons for it, but it will also be Carlson, Bannon, Green, Gates, Owens, and many others. Now, I have a question for Megyn Kelly. I've had our executive vice president use word search. We have a special word search in the course of my programs, which I've mentioned you, which are few and far between, to see where I called Megyn Kelly an anti-Semite. Isn't that correct, Mr. Producer? We've done a search. You on your own have used another search mechanism to do the same thing, correct? AI you used. And we used internal software that is really exquisite software, so we can look things up rather quickly. We can't find any. So I'd like to know when and where we did this, Megyn Kelly. So if you have it somewhere, please share it with us. I would like to have it. I'd like to know when and where, because you said that during your interview with Carlson, like you were jealous that I called him an anti-Semite and not you, which I thought was really rather bizarre. But nonetheless, please provide us with that information if you would. You know, I've never disliked her, Megyn Kelly. Never. But the last few months, she's been a huge disappointment. She's smart. She knows what she's doing. This is all about grift, in my humble opinion, for her. The irrational defenses of her acquaintance, her friendship. It's bizarre. But that's on her. She thinks that's fine with her. She'll have to live with it one day. I don't have to live with it. That's her. So it's nothing personal with me. Some of the others, it's very personal. It's nothing personal with me. But since she made that allegation, and it may well be true, we just can't find it, I'd like to know when and where, so she can put her people on it. I'm not saying your implications or something. No, where did I say what you said, that I called you an anti-Semite? And by the way, why would that bother you if I did? Just curious. It's a fair question, I think. Just asking questions, you know, just looking into these things. Just need to know. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
You know, we mentioned this in passing, this massive, sprawling Islamic center that has been built and is open in Houston, 150,000 square feet. It's dubbed a milestone for the global Sharia, that is Shia Ismaili Muslim community. And Christine Williams writing in Front Page, one of the great sites out there. The grand opening ceremony of a sprawling 150,000 square foot milestone for the global Shia Ismaili Muslim community, and a transformative addition to the city's cultural landscape, quote unquote, has now opened in Houston. Amy Meck broke the story. The stone tapestry with its triangular patterns illuminates at night and has shadows in the day. You see, who's funding these things? Think it's just passing around the plate, Mr. Producer? Who's funding this? The Ismaili Center, Houston, an architecturally grand cultural and religious space and one of only 7 worldwide, has completed construction. It's opening to the public next month. Why it matters: the 150,000 square foot center, the first in the United States, blends Islamic and contemporary design. And more than that, it spans 11 acres and sits along the Buffalo Bayou. The Ismailis, a brand of Shia Islam, are guided by a hereditary imam, currently His Highness Prince Rahim Aga Khan V, who succeeded his father in February. Believed to be a direct descendant of the Prophet Muhammad, the imam leads a community of millions across more than 70 countries. At a Thursday dedication ceremony, Aga Khan and Mayor John Whitmire officially opened the center. The land was purchased in 2006 by Aga Khan Foundation, and construction began in 2021. One would think such a milestone would be in a Muslim country, not Texas, they write. There's a reason why it's regarded as such. Where does the Ismaili Center stand with regard to Sharia law and texts in the Quran that are diametrically opposed to Western law? Well, these are important questions for the sake of national security, they write. The Ismailis today renounce violence. Nevertheless, they have a significant history of conquest by the sword, most significantly the Fatimid Caliphate that resulted in the conquest of Egypt. The Fatimids founded Cairo as their new capital and persecuted Christians and Jews. It goes through the history. But this, and Christine Williams, associate editor of the Front Page, wrote the piece. But this is you got to take a look at this on Front Page, frontpagemag.com. It is massive. Massive what they've built here. I didn't even know that many Muslims, let alone Muslims of this particular sect, I guess you would call it, live here, live there. Well, you'll see more politicians elected, I guess, of that viewpoint. And the point is, why would you pick Texas? To flip Texas. That's why you pick Texas. Is there any question about that? Not to me. Is that a good thing? No, it's not a good thing. Not if you're pushing Sharia law, not if people aren't assimilating to our system. Look, this is the problem we have right now. And it is a big deal. And you've got morons going on about affordability. How could the New Jersey vote? I don't care what people say, but how could it in their heart of hearts be about affordability? When the Democrat Party has massively increased their taxes, they've controlled the assembly there, the legislature for 20 years, and the executive for 8 years, and the property taxes are through the roof, and because of their crazy-ass policies on the environment, energy, particularly electricity prices are way, way up, and then they go vote for them. So if that's affordability, it certainly didn't raise its head in New Jersey. Maybe it did elsewhere. And in Virginia, which has more bureaucrats than any other state, I suspect that that's why the vote was the way it was, plus the massive influx of migrants. And we know why the vote was the way it was in New York City. So while people keep saying it's affordability, and to some extent it may be, unfortunately it goes deeper than that. It goes deeper than that. And it's more difficult, isn't it? Governor Wes Moore. Now, this is a guy they tout as a moderate, a veteran, had some issues about his background on this gerrymandering, redistricting, and so forth and so on. I mean, I believe Maryland has one Republican. That's it. One Republican. So listen to this guy. Wes Moore, cut 18, go.
I think that the reason that I ordered the governor's redistricting advisory commission is because I want to make sure that we can have a bipartisan group being able to look at the maps in the state of Maryland. This is something that happens every single...
You don't think these maps are fair now?
This is something that happens every single decade. And if other states are going to have this process and go through this journey of identifying whether or not they have fair maps in a mid-decade cycle, then so should Maryland. I'm just not sure why we should be playing by a different set of rules than Texas.
Texas didn't start it, number one. Number two, you have one Republican congressional district. Folks, they have one. So I guess he wants to emulate Massachusetts, which has none. Now, this is the party that claims to represent the little guy. This is the party that always claims discrimination. They use all these things these days for political purposes. Discrimination. I mean, look at Massachusetts. Now, one Republican district, and Maryland apparently is on the same road. And then they look at Gavin Newsom. You're going to have 4 Republican seats out of, 54 congressional districts? 52? They only had 9 before. This guy Newsom is a real sleazeball to me. He really is like the worst of the worst, snakes in the grass. He is an ignoramus. He's done enormous damage to a fantastic state. And I think with the right candidate, we can beat him relatively easily. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but we have to have the right candidate, that's for sure. I'll be right back.
When Mark Levin was a kid, his teachers didn't like his snide sense of humor. Today, they still don't like it. Call Mark Levin now at 877-381-3811.
Oh, yeah. Let me see here, Mr. Producer. Bruce, Glade Spring, Virginia, on the Mark Levin app. How are you?
Oh, I'm not doing too bad. Thanks for taking my call. I was just kind of curious, is like when you throw in exactly what happened back on November 4th here with these elections, we did not have one competitive race. And yet somehow or another, the Democrats are the ones that were effectively to blame or to point the finger at for the shutdown of this government. And yet somehow or another, they think in their minds that the taxpayer, for the American taxpayer, is responsible for subsidizing the Democrat Party. And that's the way it ought to be put. Because, look, I have 2 people in my family that I personally brought to the United States. I know the exact fees for what it costs to be a legal citizen. And yet somehow or another, when we ran the 4 years of Weekend at Bernie's President of the United States, Biden, he brought in millions upon millions upon millions of people into this country, and yet somehow or another the Democrat Party is effectively allowed to get away with suggesting...
No, they haven't been allowed to get away with it because the president's bill that was passed, I believe it was in May or early June, took those people off of Medicaid. Now they're trying to put them back on Medicaid. But I do agree, if your point is we need to do a better job of articulating what's going on, I don't know what better they can do. The speaker's been very effective at it. Thune's been very effective. I think the president, a lot of them have been very effective at it. This battle is going to take battle in the trenches. It's going to be door to door, neighborhood to neighborhood, getting out the vote, doing the things you have to do, because it's not going to be won in sort of a superficial way. These Marxist Islamists, when you look at New York City, heavily organized, heavily funded, including from dark money. We don't even know where the hell they're getting half of it from. So this is going to be hand-to-hand, and I don't mean it in a physical way, of course, but hand-to-hand combat in many respects. Great call, Bruce. I appreciate it. Mary Beth, Oak Ridge, New Jersey, the great WABC. Go right ahead, please.
Hey, Mark. I'm a long-time listener, 20 years. You are a national treasure. I'm a proud member of the Levin Army.
Thank you.
We're coming into the holiday season. Favorite story, A Christmas Carol. And Charles Dickens, at the turn of the 20th century, said, fear these two things most, ignorance and want. And I think we're seeing it right now. A lot of what they get away with is the ignorance that is bred in these public schools. And I wanted to ask you what you think would be the possibility of creating a great American curriculum, which would be mandatory in any institution receiving public funds, whereby K through 12, a kindergartner might be able to identify the founding three documents, but maybe a senior would be able to compare and contrast.
It's very difficult for the federal government to impose on state and local governments curriculum. And I don't know if there is any of that going on, particularly in these blue states where it's needed the most. And my view is the best way to attack it right now, anyway, that we know is effective, is through these competitive schools. The more the merrier. And one of the things that did spring from the pandemic is communities, people of faith, people who care about what their kids are learning and so forth and don't like what they're learning in these public schools, coming together and creating these sort of neighborhood classrooms. And I think if we get back to that, which is really sort of pre the John Dewey days, I think it'll make a huge, huge difference. But I'm not opposed to what you say. I just don't see it happening. On the one hand, we're trying to break up the Department of Education and grant the funds directly to the localities, that sort of thing. And then on the other hand, it's going to be very hard to impose it, is my guess. But let me give it some thought. This is a very good call. Thank you, my friend. Let's slip in one more. Rabbi Ellie, Lake, New Jersey, WABC. How are you?
Thank you for taking my call. I just wanted to thank you, first of all, for standing up against anti-Semitism. We need good fighters, good defenders. And Congressman Tripp Roy, he stood up for Netanyahu against the ICC. Zoran Moron is the three C's, communist, pro-crime, anti-Semitic, and it's a scary proposition, this guy. And we need people to be on guard, to be speaking out. I hope President...
I think one of the best things we can do there is elect Elise Stefanik as the governor to put a real strong check on this guy wherever she can. And for lawyers, both those who are formerly associated with conservative groups and those who are not, to do what the Democrats have done to Trump, which is bring lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit to slow this guy down, if not trip him up altogether.
Elise Stefanik has been fantastic in the Senate, and she has a good book coming out, and maybe you could have her on.
Sir, I have her on all the time, but yes, maybe I will.
Yeah, and President Trump has been fantastic on this issue. He really is the leader of the world, and his leadership is very valued. and very important, and he should be on standby, looking over the shoulder.
All right, thank you for your call. I'm not sure where we're going with this. He should be on standby. I should have Elise on. Isn't Elise on a lot, Mr. Producer? And she will be on a lot more, too. I can guarantee you that, because we need to win that governorship. And we need to stop this guy as best we can. In other words, it's like playing chess. And he might be like a bishop or something. No, I guess he wouldn't be a bishop per se, being an Islamist, but you get my point. And Elise would be the queen, and she could be a queen. But my view is, and I heard this, when I was election night, local coverage on WABC with John Castellamides and others, and it's a former deputy mayor, as I recall, who brought this up, litigation. I said 100%, that's a great idea. And so there needs to be massive litigation. We need to take a page out of the book of the radical left and make them eat it. Massive litigation, have a governor who's going to intercede as much as possible, as much as they're allowed to under the Constitution and law, and she is fearless. I think she'd be absolutely fantastic. She is absolutely fearless, I think. All right, let's see here. And I'm not trying to be rude to anybody, but, with very, very limited time. Now, tomorrow, it's my intention to be here behind the microphone. That's assuming I can get back to Virginia. I'm leaving early in the morning, but we shall see. Given what the Democrats have done to the air control system, and given the fact that a lot of air controllers have taken this opportunity to take off, I guess. And so that's the way it is. Nothing better than airport food. Don't you agree, Rich? But we will do our very, very best. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Upstate New York. One-up Zoran Mandami. How can they do that, Mr. Producer? Did you see this? Well, the leaves aren't the only ones that are red upstate this fall in New York. New York Post. After socialist Mandami won last week's New York mayoral race, an upstate city has gone on one better by electing a full-blown communist. Hannah Schvetz. She Schvetz, Mr. Producer. Hannah Schvetz, a student organizer, member of the Communist Party USA. Communist Party USA. How about that? Communist Party USA, Democratic Socialists, Islamists, and Marxists. I'd say things are getting a little out of hand, especially in these blue states. She participated in numerous anti-Israel protests. Well, that's how you earn your creds, Since Hamas attacked the Jewish state, according to left-wing outlet People's World, which celebrated her victory, 4 of the 10 seats on the Ithaca Common Council were occupied by Cornell students ahead of November 4th election. Oh, that's got to be hell. Among her ambitions, she pledges we're raising the minimum wage to $25 an hour, just under the $30 an hour that Mandami's talking about. She campaigned on protecting rent stabilized. You got to get the hell out of these cities. You got to get the hell out of these cities, or you're going to lose everything. Those of you who can, obviously everybody can't. Or excuse me, everybody can't, but this is just lunacy. And this isn't the only blue states in which these things are happening. New York is having New Jersey's having big problems now. But it's even penetrating into these Republican states. And like we just talked about, Texas. Absolutely crazy. And let's see here. I want to get to this other thing, too. Let's go to Michael. Let's test out this one. Commerce, Texas, XM satellite. Yes, Michael.
Hey, how's it going, Mark?
Going great.
It's a privilege talking to you. I've been an avid fan I've been listening to you for years, ever since Obama's second term.
Thank you, sir.
What came across my mind when the government opened up, I could be dead wrong, but I think John Fetterman got a hold of some few Democrats, even a little Dick Durbin, and talked some sense into them and say, hey, we got to end this thing. This is getting out of hand. People are losing their.
What do you think of Fetterman? What do you think of him? I kind of like
really
him.
Like him. I really do.
Me too. Me too. You know, he's got a book coming out. Among other things, I saw some little piece of it, some blurb of it. And after the debate, which was very humiliating for him against Oz, he said, suicidal and deeply depressed because he knew what he sounded like and looked like, and he was being humiliated, and he didn't feel that he'd ever recover. And it went on for months, he wrote. And even when he won and then went into Washington into the Senate, he was deeply depressed. And his wife told him, look, you have children. You got to break out of this. And he went to Walter Reed Hospital where he was treated and so forth. I mean, the man struggled horribly. And he's pulled out of it. Obviously, he's still, I'm sure, is under some kind of treatment or whatever. But I feel very bad for this man. I think he's probably 70% votes with the Democrats, and certainly their leadership. But the fact of the matter is, I think he's really stood up to the most radical elements, and they want to take him out in a primary. So I'm literally thinking, depending on who the Republican is, backing this guy. Rich, you think that's crazy? No? You don't know. There's Rich, always right on the sidelines. I said thinking about it. Don't worry. We'll see who runs against him. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Michael.
Well, yeah, I'm 51 years old. I never thought I'd live to see this day of our country just going down the toilet. And and this whole New York thing, I think it was voter fraud all the way. This guy online was bragging he voted for Mahoney, whatever his dang name is, 6 times.
Yeah, but that would have been a lot. Whoa, that is a lot. But that would have been a lot of fraud. Yeah, but what about our guys? What do you think about all this Jew hatred, Christian hatred, racism, and bigotry? That's not going to help us very much get elected to anything, is it?
No, sir. No, sir. That's just awful. I mean, it just blows my mind. I don't understand it. I listen to you, and I agree with you 100%. These Marxists and these Islamics are all in the same bag.
Well, you're very kind. You're very kind, Michael. Thanks. You take care of yourself, buddy. What the people who hate me don't understand is the vast majority of Christians who listen to this program like me and like the show, right, Rich? So otherwise, why would they listen? Whew, what a day already, right? Well, is the government open or not? Not yet. It takes time. When it closes, it takes time to open it up. The truth is the vast majority of the government is open and has always been open, but they try to make it as painful as possible. You understand? We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers, the men and women in Ukraine, the men and women in Israel, and you. And I'm deeply honored that you're here. I can feel your blessing, and I appreciate it. And we'll do the same thing tomorrow. What do you say? Hopefully. I'll see you then. Have a wonderful night.